Hello and welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is episode 225. John and Wendy, Ask Us Anything, Part 5. I'm your host, John.
I am Wendy. How are you, John?
I'm well, Wendy. I was waiting for you to say again and again and again, like an echo chamber.
I was gonna, and then I was trying to, can I do 5? Would I go too many? Would I go not far enough? Again, whatever it is. I love these episodes. I love seeing what people come up with because it's everything,
I think we should note we have made a point of always celebrating the number before a big number.
Yep.
However, 224 was really cool because you did the Unleash special, as I'm calling it, with Nikki Hoyland, and I had a chance to listen to it. Super cool. Learned some stuff, and it sounded like a great time. You fully recovered from your first conference adventure and all?
It was a lot of fun. I've talked about it a couple of times. I am fully recovered, but it does take me a little bit longer to recover. I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that I'm 3 years older than the last time we went anywhere. But I think the one thing that I took away from it that I'm going to do anytime I go to a conference is not get into that hustle culture of you got to go to everything, you got to see everything, you got to go, and be okay with resting. We can't do everything, and we end up disappointed when it can be disappointing when you try and you can't do everything. So coming up with those must-dos, those must-see people, and focusing on that, I think that's going to be my mantra the next time I go to an event.
We'll have to do another convention conference special at some point.
Yeah.
With some seasoning, with some separation from doing it. Like you said, I still have not done anything. I don't know when I will. It doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. I don't know. I may be telling everybody to just put on the goggles and do the virtual things. We'll have to wait and see.
Hey, and the virtual stuff is just as important, as much as awesome as it is to see people in person. And it is. I'm not going to, try and downplay that. But as I was thinking about it, those virtual options are really more accessible and open up those events to a lot more people. So I really hope conferences continue to offer or there are options to continue to learn online, because I think that's a key as well to offering, making those events much more inclusive and available, because it's expensive to travel. I went to Vegas in the middle of the week and I had a heck of a time finding a decent flight. Well,
enough convention talk. Yeah. We're here to answer some questions. We always ask and people always deliver. Wendy, I think we should just get right to it.
Let's jump in, huh? All right. So our first question is from our friend, Dr. Bob, which I love that. We have Dr. Bob. It's awesome. When do you think we will see the flattening of organizations and elimination of middle management? Or will we?
I appreciate Dr. Bob asking one of our serious questions. It is difficult to answer from the standpoint that we're all in so many different places. Uh-huh. I would say what I see is that organizations are flattening out.
For sure.
And if they aren't eliminating management, they're at least adding additional duties or promoting people in a lot of times that were tremendous widget makers as individual contributors. However, are they necessarily great leaders to show the other people not only how to make the widgets, but nurture them and develop them? That is an issue I think we have heard a lot from our guests over time. I think we are seeing it, but again, I'm only speaking from my perspective and my own experience in the industry that I am around. I think the pandemic only exacerbated that. The smaller labor pool has exacerbated that. More work, more stuff needed from fewer people.
No, I think I agree with that. And I think some of that will continue. I think what I hope to see is a better definition around what you want those leaders to do. Are they working managers? Are they there to lift and coach your employees and help your employees be better? So where do those Where should that be? In healthcare, I've seen both for a long time, where you have some working managers and then you have some that are just managing people. So I think there needs to be a little better definition around that, and hopefully better prepping those managers for what those next level of duties are. Because if you're going to supervise people, I mean, we all have stories of horrible, horrible supervisors. So if we're going to move away from or flattening out some of that, there still needs to be the coaching. There still needs to be some of that direction to make sure everyone's moving in the same direction.
I think it is interesting. Just like we always say, you don't go to school necessarily to be a recruiter when you grow up.
Right.
I don't think people necessarily think I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to be a business
They want to be
manager.
the boss.
They want to be the boss. Yes,
or the CEO.
But we all know those are very, very different things. Yeah. It's a growth opportunity. It's a development opportunity that, unfortunately, so often, and like I said, we talk to people about this all the time. It is a reality that the individual contributor that's successful, a lot of people just think sprinkle some magic dust and they're going to be a great leader, a great supervisor, a great manager, a great CEO. They may, and they may not.
Right.
Unfortunately, with all the other confluence of stuff going on in the world, I think to Dr. Bob's question, I think flattening, elimination, or those that are in it, are they necessarily equipped to be successful?
Exactly. I agree with that.
Our friend Christy Engler asks, after 200 plus episodes, where is HR going? What's going well and what needs improvement?
That is a huge question.
It is. It is.
That's why you put it, like, I have to answer it, isn't it? I'm seeing a lot more folks focused on employee-centric organizations. And we're seeing more of HR move that direction. We still have the old school folks out there, but I think they are getting older. Hopefully they're getting closer to retirement. But as we bring up new and I'll say younger HR professionals, I think that they are also pushing to move a little bit more towards that. How do we support employees? Because if we support employees, everything else should fall in line.
We are having conversations that we didn't have 4 years ago, particularly when it comes to recognition and engagement. And to your point, the development piece. Mm-hmm. I think we should be careful to say it's just more seasoned HR professionals, because I don't think that, I think you and I would have to say that we are fairly seasoned HR professionals. I mean, we've got 40 plus years of experience between us.
We do.
I think that's fairly seasoned in the world that we're in. I think we're trying to help change things as we can and talk to people that are changing things.
Oh, for sure.
There is always going to be a compliance component. We talk so much about tech advances and the cool stuff that's going on. And you and I both know that there is a tremendous part of the population, the business population, they're not doing any of those things. They may not have the resources. They may not have either the people resources, much less the money. It is difficult.
Yeah.
And it's cultural. If you're a well-established business that's done what you think is well, and you keep doing well, and you're not doing all these bits and buttons and bloops and blorps, and you just don't, you're not seeing it. And if your leadership doesn't see the value in some of those things, that is a challenge. So I think what's going well is that we continue to see those conversations being pushed. Fewer people in the market, the competitive market that we all have. I don't care what you're hiring for. It's funny. People are like, what about this, that, or there? Or we're even seeing now, we're starting to see some of these really big tech companies, they're starting to downsize a bit or right size or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, the general public, if you go to, I'm going to just say it for healthcare, but I'm going to say healthcare, retail, construction. I look everywhere. I just took a trip for work. Mm-hmm. I'm in the Pittsburgh area. It's a pretty depressed area. There's a lot of challenges. There were restaurants that were literally open 2 or 3 days a week because there aren't enough people to make the food. There's certainly people traveling to want to, buy their food, but they don't have the resources to do it. That is going to continue to be an issue.
Right.
For many, many, many organizations. Who would have thought we'd be talking about that 4 years ago? I wouldn't.
No. I mean, who would have thought that you'd be seeing sign-on bonuses for entry-level positions, not, at Walmart, at, food service, environmental services, housekeepers are seeing sign-on bonuses, they're seeing increased wages. I know that, we all know wages can't go up forever, but I'm kind of happy to see wages going up. It's been a long time since we've had movement like this. And I think, too, we're seeing a lot of, I am still seeing HR folks kind of pushing back on that. Well, the money has to come from somewhere. I get that, but I think we need to be a little more creative when we're talking about that and thinking about how do we do work a little bit differently. Again, if we focus on our employees, they will take care of our patients, they will take care of our customers, they will take care of the business for us.
I think it's all well and good to be good stewards of our resources financially. Mm-hmm. However, if you are such a great steward of the resources that the resources don't go out, you're not going to have the people to make the widgets, to take care of the people, to
exactly
fix the burger or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it is going to be interesting to watch how our world changes in the next several years as we see more automation. We know it's coming. I mean, mm-hmm. You hear about the pharmacies bringing in the robot pharmacists and what have you. And the fast food places are going to make, robot burger slingers, and those things are going to happen. We are still going to see this dearth of people available to the market for a while. And I keep trying to tell people it's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. We're talking years out.
I would agree with that. Well, and too, there's already self-checkout at Walmart. There's already self-order at McDonald's. They still need people. It didn't eliminate all the jobs.
Isn't it fascinating that how often do you hear in our world, we talk about employee self-service and these, whatever it is, to be able to do all this myriad of stuff. How often, though, do we hear that there's not enough touch?
Right.
It's an interesting, and I'm glad Christy asked, what's going well? I mean, there are a lot of things that are going really well.
Yeah.
What needs improvement? I think, to your point earlier, there needs to be some shift or understanding that things have shifted in some folks that are only going to quote scripture and verse out of the laws because they are important. I do not want, I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't want you to put the organization in trouble, but there is something to be said for thinking about how you're going to deal with these individuals as individuals.
Right. Well, and the law is the minimum. That's your floor. You can go above and beyond what the law says. And so I think, too, the more, I guess they keep preaching this, the more we focus on doing what's right for the employee. And I'm not saying we bend over backwards and give them everything they want. It has to be reasonable, obviously. If we can focus that a little bit better on who's making our widgets or who's making our burgers, I really think everything else is going to be okay. All right. From our friend, Miss John, we need to head up to Fargo or to Grand Forks and see John. Who is the resource you use most professionally?
It was great to hear from John. It's been too long.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly difficult question.
Right.
I've been so fortunate to get to know so many people. Mm-hmm. I'm utilizing people differently.
Right.
I'm going to read John Hyman's law blog. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to listen to Hostile Work Environment when it comes to employment law things, because they're at the front. Eric Meyer, there's some really great stuff. Dave Miklas, who's been on our show. There's a lot of really great people writing really good stuff or creating great content when it comes to that. When I'm looking at somebody that challenges me, and I've said it over and over, and she knows it, Lori Rudiman. I have to listen to Lori Rudiman's podcast every week. I guess that's the more forward thinking often in terms of what we do. And as I've said before, she confounds me in ways that nobody else in this industry does. And I need that personally. If I'm going to talk about recruiting, I'm going to talk to you, or I'm going to go listen to Chad and Cheese if I'm listening about HR tech. I think why I say it's so hard is that I don't think there's any one source I use more than another. I do listen to a ton of podcasts. Everybody knows that. Yeah. And I could sit here and rail off umpteen HR podcasts that I listen to every week, because I'm always picking up something. And hopefully it helps us get better as podcasters and as creators and as people in this business. That's how I've learned, and that's how I like to learn. The great thing is there is so much good content being created, so many great materials out there. I'm glad John asked the question, but I can't just say, this is the resource.
Right.
Because we do so many different things. Yeah.
There's not just one. And even for me going into doing talent acquisition, I would probably, if someone came and asked me, I would say, well, what are you looking to do in talent acquisition? Are you going in for sourcing? Are you looking to market? Are you looking for interviewing? What part of that are you going to look for? Because I'm going to recommend someone different each time. I'll give a shout out to Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. I do watch her videos. I think she offers some really great down-to-earth advice. Anyone looking for recruiting advice, I would go to her first, and then I would look to actual recruiters. I guess that's where I look for my resources.
Terry Milford had a couple questions. The first one is, what's the most surprising response or thing that you've learned doing the show?
That we're still doing it. 4 years later, and here we are. We're still doing the podcast, which I absolutely love. Honestly, the most surprising thing for me has been that we get sponsors. We get businesses that want to work with us and see the value in what we're doing and want to access our community. And we've said it before that we are protective of our community. It's open doors, but we're not going to sell the list to anybody. So if we want to bring someone in, know that we've done our due diligence, and there's someone that we think you should know, and there's someone, even as a business, it's a business we think you should be involved with. So I think that's been the most surprising thing for me. I did not expect that we would be, one, I didn't think we'd be doing it 4 years later, and two, I didn't think we'd be working with some really great sponsors on some amazing things that we've been able to do.
Mine's going to lean a little more personal in that I'll never forget when we had Michael Milady on the first time. That was when we still asked, how did you first get to know us?
Oh, sure.
And his comment was, oh, I heard your other podcast.
Oh, right.
And he talked about Star Joes. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
There's been one other Star Joes interaction I've had from this show. It was at the big HR conference several years ago. There's a big G.I. Joe convention that was going on like the next weekend, I think, or 2 weekends ago. It was close together. I'm at the conference and I'm talking to somebody. They kind of leaned in and they go, hey, I got a question for you. I go, okay. You going to JoeCon? I was like, what? I was kind of flattered. I was like, okay, yeah. What, I don't know. Are you going to JoeCon? Like, it was totally random. You going to go to JoeCon? I'm like, no, unfortunately not, because it's whatever. And they said, oh, my brother listens to Star Joes. And I told him that I was going to meet you. And I thought that was insane.
That is crazy.
These worlds that world is fairly specific and small. Yeah. It's a small but vocal group, just like what we have with our community that we've built. The confluence of my podcasting, Michael Milady's response, I just remember being like, holy crap, that's crazy that came up.
Oh, no, I love it. All right, Terry's other question. If you could interview anyone real or fictional, who would it be?
If we can include those that are no longer among us, because we're going to say fictional.
Right.
I've had an idea for a podcast for years called Needs Me Some Needham, which is all about the filmography of Hal Needham, one of the greatest action movie directors that ever lived. And I read Hal Needham's book, Stuntman, years ago. Hal Needham directed Cannonball Run, Stroker Ace, Megaforce, the greatest G.I. Joe movie ever made, Dirt Bike Kid. Hal Needham directed all these action movies because he started in Hollywood as a stuntman riding horses.
Okay.
Way back in the Westerns. He lived a crazy life. He was really, really close friends with Burt Reynolds. I want to do a podcast just about Hal Needham movies and to be able to have interviewed him about his process. Several years ago, I had a chance to meet Barry Bostwick, who was the star of Megaforce. And I said, hey, are all the stories I've heard about Hal Needham true? And he proceeded to give me a litany of stories for the next 25 minutes about what a challenge it was to work with this guy. If it existed, I'd interview Hal Needham. It would be for my other podcast that does not exist, Needs Me Some Needham.
This was hard because there's, you can go so many different directions with it. When we had Minda Harts on the very first time on HR Wonder Women, we joked that we were trying to get Beyonce on. I don't know. I'd probably be way too starstruck at that point. If we could do anyone, and I don't know how much Beyonce would fit into what we're doing now, but I think I'd go with Michelle Obama. Somewhat realistic, maybe. But I think she would have some great things to share to our community on treating people, equity, And, I think she could have some good advice on how you should treat employees, even though she hasn't been an employee for a long time. She hasn't, I think she's had some employees, but I think that would be a very fascinating interview.
From the ridiculous to the sublime. That wasn't so ridiculous. Our dear friend and our favorite Canadian, Melanie Peacock, asked, if HR were a sandwich, what would the ingredients be and what would it be called?
Well, it's obviously a gyro, right?
Oh, I thought it was a sandwich, but
Oh, no, we're not doing sandwiches anymore. Which, shout out to Disrupt HR. That's one of my favorite Disrupt HR talks. Stop serving sandwiches. Many years ago. Highly recommend going and checking it out. Melanie is...
Why would it be that? Why was that the first thing to come to mind?
A gyro?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like HR.
Okay.
It's a hero sandwich. HR and the hero sandwich. I don't know. I'll be honest. I saw the question and I thought about it and I'm just like, we could take it down the direction. Do we get into the discussion of what is a sandwich? Is a hot dog a sandwich? All of those.
I'm leaving that to the sporkful. Let's let them have that conversation.
Yeah, I'm a little stumped. Did you have any thoughts on this one? I love it, Melanie. I love that you have completely and totally stumped me on this one.
It's a bologna sandwich because we're full of it. That's what my dearly departed mother would have said. I guarantee it. I mean, she would have said I was full of bull. I think it's a bologna sandwich because so often of what we're feeding people is bologna.
I like it. I can live
That's what I'm going with. And you can call it whatever you want. You can gussy up the name.
Okay. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I can go with a good bologna sandwich. I haven't had one in forever. Yeah. Maybe a little fried bologna.
Martinsville Raceway. That's what you get. That's the sandwich of the racetrack, is a fried bologna sandwich. I have to preface this next set of questions because hands down, Wendy, this may be the greatest thing that anybody has done in homage to us and what we did to lighten our load. Chris Hadley outsourced his questions to his wife and kids.
I love it.
But the best part is he didn't tell them what it was for. All he asked him was, ask me a question. So there's no context to it.
Love it.
He didn't tell them it's for John and Wendy. They may not know who we are. I don't know. I've already told Chris that this needs to be his ongoing project. Anytime we do this now, he's got to do this. This is nothing short of brilliant. Like it just made me laugh so hard when I read it and put it in context. First question is from Kayla, who asked, boneless or bone-in wings?
Oh, bone-in. Boneless wings are chicken nuggets. You can put sauce on it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's a chicken nugget. For whatever reason, bone-in wings are usually cheaper than boneless. Which
they're all expensive now.
They're all expensive now, but you're not in the back at Buffalo Wild Wings taking the meat off of the wing. It's breast meat. It's not wing meat. And I love good wings. I love to make wings. We've been finding some weird and different sauces at Walmart, and I love it.
I always say, you can tell somebody's age or vintage based on what they call Buffalo Wild Wings. When it was BW3, for those of you in the listening audience that aren't aware, it used to be Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck because they served Kimmelweck rolls, beef on Weck, which is a Buffalo area sandwich. Kimmelweck bread doesn't travel well. It doesn't last but a day or two. So they got rid of Weck pretty early on. I can remember vividly when it was Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck, and it was a college town thing. I think they started in Bloomington, and they were only in college towns.
Yeah, I remember way back when. And then getting, BW3, B-dubs,
When they opened BW3 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I went at Middle Tennessee State, we went all the time. I can vividly remember I won tickets to see Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh.
From a local radio promotion. Since I was not dating anyone and didn't have any prospects for a lady friend, I gave them to my roommate because I was not going to go see Hootie and the Blowfish. stag. It didn't make sense. So he had a nice time with one of his lady friends. But yeah,
Nice.
I won tickets to see Hootie and the Blowfish while I was eating wings. That was nice. That was a good night.
I like it. All right. Dion asked, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think I'm going to go with teleportation.
You took mine. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Nightcrawler can bamf all over the place. I don't think he has to see it. I can't remember. Sometimes the teleporters have to be able to have been somewhere to wreck. Yeah. I would say I don't have to be somewhere. I could just kind of calculate. Like in Jumper. I think they did that in Jumper. They just jumped. Yeah. That's not quite the same thing. But yeah, teleportation is my choice.
Yeah, teleportation or the ability to fly super speeds so that I don't have to wait around, spend 6 hours in an airport.
The last question from Chris's family is from Amelia, who asked, where do diamonds come from? This may be the most philosophical question of the entire show.
Poop and pressure.
I was going to say the store. What is it they used to say? 3 months of salary for your engagement ring. Wasn't that the mark at one time?
At one point I thought it was 2 years or something. It was insane. Maybe it was 2 months.
I definitely didn't do 2 years.
I know.
That was well before my HR career got going.
Sorry.
There is the literal sense of diamonds coming from compressed coal or whatever, yep. But there's also the diamonds come from the store.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
That's what I've heard.
I don't know.
Thank you, Chris, for the laughs. Thank you to Kayla, Dion, and Amelia for contributing. We appreciate that very much.
Those were awesome. Those were great questions. All right. Matt Henry asks, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
This has changed over time. I'm not a beach person. I like visiting big cities, New York, Chicago. I like that. I don't want to live there, long term. Now, particularly, I have a friend that's over in Ireland. I would love to live somewhere like that.
Yeah.
The green, lush hills, maybe have some sheep that I can tend to. It seems like it could be such an easygoing thing. It used to be because I'd want to go drink the beer or drink the whiskey, and I'm not doing that anymore. So I don't think it would be so much for that. But yeah, I something idyllic. Yeah. Like that sounds good to me.
Yeah, my first thought was I'm happy staying here where I'm at. It's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I wouldn't mind if I could, get my house and the view of the open prairie that I had in Montana and bring it back here so I don't have to transport children anywhere or uproot them. I do miss having a view. I miss having everything's getting built up around here, so it's just houses, houses, houses. Now, if I had to choose somewhere else, it would be somewhere in the mountains. Some quiet little cabin. As nice as it is to be able to be in larger cities and have the amenities, or even small cities like where I live now, I think I would be much happier living away from people and then just going in and out on occasion.
All right. Well, the next question has a visual that we can't share. Uh-huh. Matt Stolick had posted an image, and it says you can only choose 3 potions. And there are 12 potions, or I'm sorry, there's 12 potions listed, and you can pick 3 of them. I'm not going to read all of them. I'll just you tell me your 3, and I'll pick my 3, and maybe there'll be 3 different. We'll see.
Obviously, one is you can teleport to any airport. So I'm going with that since that was going to be my superpower anyway. I think I'm also going to go with things taste like whatever I want them to, because I do like good food, and that way all food tastes the way it should, whether it's cooked properly or not. And because I live in South Dakota, all insects avoid you. We were at a state park yesterday at a Girl Scout thing, and several of us agree. We all have dogs, and there's tick medicine for dogs. So, and the medicine you give dogs now, it doesn't keep the ticks off of the dogs, but it prevents the ticks from biting them. Why can't we have this for humans? We know Lyme disease is an issue. We know ticks biting us is an issue. Why can't we have tick medicine that we just take once a month and I don't have to worry about ticks on me or on my dogs then? That's what I'm going with.
Okay. I didn't choose any of those. So I chose speak every language.
That's a good one.
Identify the emotions of anyone you talk with.
Nice.
And grow your ideal beard. Although I do have to say, things you kick 3 times turn into cheese is kind of tempting.
That was tempting, but then he posted that on Twitter as well, when he shared it on Twitter, and then someone said, I would be turning a lot of tires into cheese. And I was like, ooh, I wonder how many times I accidentally kick something 3 times.
The only reason I didn't say teleport to any airport is I just want to teleport to why?
Oh, you don't actually go to why go to the airport? Well, so to the airport, that might be if you have to visualize. So I can visualize the airport. Yes. I can visualize the gate that I need to arrive at.
That was the interesting thing with the Marvel stuff with the snap.
Right.
When they reappeared, like with Hawkeye, I think it came up in Hawkeye, when the room had changed. Mm-hmm. What happened to those people that were in a plane at 20,000 feet or 50,000 and they snapped and all of a sudden they're back? We don't hear that stuff.
No, you don't.
That stuff doesn't get addressed.
They just appear in the air and then now you're dead.
It's kind of bleak.
It is very bleak. It is very bleak. Yeah. Well, we have a few questions from Tom Daniels, who we're getting some really interesting questions here. I'll say that much. Do you floss before or after you brush your teeth?
I floss before. My weird secret about brushing, or thing that people would be surprised by, is I love original flavor Listerine.
It tastes like medicine.
It's that antiseptic thing. It always, maybe it's psychological. Like I think Probably. I'm going to be cleaner than it's Cool Mint or purple.
Probably.
It's just that stuff that
purple isn't clean. Orange, gold, whatever color it is.
And I floss on the regular. I think my doctor or my dentist is usually fairly pleased.
I will say, Tom, this was my reminder to put floss on my shopping list, so thank you for that. I'm usually really good until we run out, and then I forget to put it on the list. So we might be a little bit behind sometimes, but I do before as well.
Tom asked, "What is your superpower?" And I think what he means by that is, what do you do that is special or that you're really focused on? Not like I want, like the earlier question about what you want to do, but what do you feel like is something that you really excel in?
Well, my superpower, I kind of forgot I knew how to do this, but I'm going to say my superpower is sight reading music. That I can sit down on the piano and nothing overly complicated and not too many sharps, but I can pluck out both hands of a song pretty easily from the first time I sit down. I may or may not get better than that, depending on how much I want to practice it. But so Jesse and I are doing Willy Wonka this summer, and so for me to be able to sit down and pluck out some of those harmonies real quick, that was a nice surprise to come back to.
I think mine is connecting people. I think this show is part of that. Previous guest of the show, Tommy Diener, told me one time that she didn't know anybody that connected people as well as I did. And then she said, that is your gift. Yeah. And so I think that and that is not just from an HR perspective. That's in all things. I like to connect people that I think should know each other. And that's something I've always enjoyed doing. And I think I excel doing.
You do a great job at that.
Thank you.
Given the choice, would you be a bird or a fish?
Bird. And especially after watching Peacemaker on HBO Max, Eagly. Yeah? Eagly's like the greatest bird ever, and he hugs John Cena for crying out loud. That bird is awesome. And birds eat fish.
Birds eat fish. Unless I can be like a really big fish. If I could be like a great white shark, just cruising the ocean.
Tom's last question is, if you could be a guest or guest host of any podcast, and I assume that means existing podcast,
right,
not made up, what show would it be?
Oh, another hard one for me, because I haven't been listening to podcasts like I should, but I think I am going to go with the Holy Post podcast, which was hosted by the guy who did Bob the Tomato of Veggie Tales.
Oh, wow.
And so they talk, it is very philosophical and very religious focused, some evangelical stuff in there, which is interesting to me. The first half of their show is sometimes it's serious news, sometimes it's general news, but they typically have a segment called News of the Butt, where they talk about, you guessed it, it's usually poop related. And the fact that you have the guy who did Bob the Tomato talking about poop on a podcast, I love it. But it's a lot of fun. I've learned a lot from the podcast. They are very, very good. And Bob's voice sometimes shows up. And there is ukulele as well.
My fun fact about Veggie Tales, other than my kids watched it, one of my buddies plays violin on a lot of that show. A lot of the things that were filmed, he was in the musicians group that played.
Okay.
He went from that to Hamilton, for crying out loud.
We're Bob Burgers fans at my house. We love those crazy, silly little songs that don't sound like they took very long to write, and they took forever to write to sound that effortless.
Yeah.
And we still sing songs from Veggie Tales.
My friend Chuck, I think it was one of his first gigs out of college was playing on Veggie Tales, and he did that. And he also plays electric violin. He's pretty damn amazing.
Very, very cool.
He does an electric violin camp with, I forget, there's a guy, I can't think of the guy's name, but very accomplished for his like metal violin. Wow. And Chuck is one of the guys that performs with him and is crazy talented, good. Anyway,
That's awesome.
This is not a hard question for me at all. It is my favorite podcast, hands down, regardless of format or anything else. It's the Doughboys.
Yep.
As I've talked about repeatedly here and elsewhere, the thing about podcasts for me is the communities that are built. Just like we have this amazing community that we built of listeners. And I'm part of a lot of different communities in podcasting, and being part of the Doughboys podcast community, 2 comedy writers, actors, performers that started out, they have a guest on and they would review started out as fast food chains. And it's over time, they do sit down restaurants as well. Their evolution from these 45 or 50 minute shows to like 2-hour episodes with all kinds of inside jokes where they didn't get along and they hated each other, and then they made up, and they have this weird dynamic. They have guests that come back all the time. Jason Mantzoukas has been on the show, and I know you're a big fan of Mantzoukas. Yeah. Mantzoukas can't eat anything because of his egg allergy. So he came on and reviewed frozen French fries and frozen like Ore-Ida. They cooked all kinds of Ore-Ida stuff. And during the pandemic, they had to get carry out or they did different things, or they got food at the grocery and tried everything. They're very militant union because they're both in the writers union and SAG and very pro worker. Last year they did a Twitch stream, a 25-hour Twitch stream.
Oh, right.
And they ended up at like I want to say it was $160,000 or $170,000 Food Workers Fund. They're funny. They're quick. There's all kinds of in story and history and jokes upon jokes upon jokes. It's my favorite, and I would love to get in and even try to keep up with them at some level. I don't know what I don't know what I have to think about what I'd want to review as far as restaurants. It was the first show I ever bought a T-shirt for. If that tells you anything, that's how much I like them. And it's one of the few shows I'm a patron. Like I've been on their Patreon group for 3 or 4 years now, and they have a crazy following. They do live shows that sell out in an hour. The people go crazy. They had a drunk guy try to get on stage to get near them, and they had to yank him off. That's the one negative they've had. Their fans are just super devoted, and like I said, the fact that they've done good, and they donate. They are living off their Patreon now.
Wow.
I'm not even going to talk about how much they're in the top 10. I believe they're in the top 10 projects on Patreon every month.
Wow.
It is serious money. Now, of course, it pays for their production, and they have staff, and they have people that work with them and for them now. It's the best.
All right. Tina Marie asks, if they were to name an ice cream after you, what would it be?
I wasn't quite sure if it was what would the name be or what would be in it. I took it as what would be in it, and it's got to have bananas, and it's got to have chocolate, chips, cookie chunks, something. I don't know. Like I like a birthday cake or a sweet cream base, bananas, caramel, chocolate, but it has to have bananas.
I'll add some chocolate to the next time I do the banana Foster just for you, John.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I sold that this weekend, and it was very popular. I had caramelized bananas and walnuts in a rum-based vanilla ice cream, and it was very good. This is a lot harder for me now because I've made so many ice creams. I think I'm going to go with the one I'll be making again here soon, my coffee stout ice cream, chocolate coffee stout, because I like chocolate, I like coffee, and the creaminess of it. It's been a long time since Eponymous has had their coffee stout on tap, so I'm super pumped to have some of that, and then to turn that into ice cream again. I'm excited. Although I gotta say, I'm really happy with my Cinnamon Toast Crunch ice cream too, because that's been selling very well too. But I'm not Cinnamon Toast Crunch. If I'm going to the cereal aisle, I'm not necessarily picking that.
I am very curious to see what you say here. Paul Lalone asks, what's your favorite memory of each other?
Oh, so many different ways I could go with this. I did share the escalator story at Unleash with Nikki Hoyland's team because they had a suitcase mishap. And so I'm like, oh, I am going to make you feel better. I'm going to say it was the first time we met at the big HR conference in DC when we just happened to run into each other in the elevator and then walked to the conference both days that we were there. And it was just kind of the nice way to start our friendship. It's a nice story. Obviously, we knew each other ahead of time. It wasn't like we were complete strangers in the elevator, but that is something that I look back on, that happenstance of us being in the elevator at the same time, which has led to where we are today.
Not to mention my weird interaction with one of my G.I. Joe friends when we're walking down the street in D.C. Remember? And he walked right up to me and goes, "Sir, what are you doing here?" Like, what the hell? And there's Brad Shue. Shout out to Brad Shue. What a good guy.
Oh, yes.
See, you mentioned it. The luggage explosion, it just encapsulates so much for us.
It does.
And the sheer joy on your face, the tears of joy and the laughter.
And what else can we do?
It was so damn.
What else
it was
could we
perfect.
do?
It was so funny. Thankfully, there was a really nice person there to help us because I'm sure they were mortified.
I'm sure they thought I was the worst person in the world. How was this person? Why is she laughing at this?
For those that are still listening that have not heard this story, Chicago 2018.
Yeah.
Last day of the conference, we're headed to the reception room for the folks that were working on the blog squad with the conference. And it's early morning. It's like, 7:15 or so. It's before everything got going.
We were the only ones there.
We're the only two people heading up. And I'm behind Wendy, and she gets to the top of the escalator. And the next thing you know, my luggage just blew out. That I don't know if I had too much stuff in there, but then we proceed to watch all my stuff tumble down the escalator. My laptop that I'd gotten as a gift, and it just started running up, and I'm cussing and carrying on, and Wendy's in the corner laughing, and then I'm like, well, now I got to tell Heidi that you saw my underwear because that's going to be a story. We just watched all my stuff come up the steps, come up the escalator, and I start dumping it in the escalator, dumping it back into the luggage.
We couldn't go down and get it.
No, it made no sense. And thankfully, nobody else is around to see this shenanigans. Except the one nice lady who came over, got me some tape, and we taped it up the remnants of my luggage. Thankfully, I was staying in I was staying in the Chicagoland area for a couple more days to see my family, and so my sister took me to a store to buy a piece of luggage to get home. We talked about it. I think we recorded that day, or that story has come up over the years, and we've had some real misadventures. I mean, we had the other thing I thought about is we recorded one time. I think it was in LA. We were doing one of our Facebook things, and I was cussing because it wasn't working. And it got through.
Oh,
I thought that was funny.
I forgot about that.
It's weird. It's weird to think that we've not seen each other in person since LA in October of 19?
October of 19, yep.
That's weird.
I know.
That sucks. But it's weird.
It does suck.
Weird.
It's weird and it sucks. And, the hard part is neither one of us live near a super active airport, which would make it easy for us to visit coming in and out. Sioux Falls is not easy. Richmond is not easy. Just go visit. Y'all don't understand. You just can't. And we're kind of now at a point where I am feeling more comfortable traveling. Got my masks. I bought a new HR Social Hour mask just for the trip to Vegas, because you don't know. Even after, if there is ever an after, I might wear one all the time, because there's a lot of weird people bringing weird germs onto airplanes.
True,
Let's just
true,
be honest.
Very true.
And they're packing those planes tight. Yeah. Final question from Mary Williams. What's been the most unexpected surprise in this HR Social Hour journey?
You alluded to it earlier. I think the fact that we're still doing it. Thank you, Mary Williams, number one fan, undisputed.
Yes.
We had to end with her question. It's funny, Wendy. So this is the 225th numbered episode. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the actual number of release this episode will be, or is, since it's out? People are listening.
It's got to be close to 300.
294.
Damn. So there's my most unexpected surprise, Mary.
294 episodes of stuff that we have created with so many of you that have submitted questions, have been on the show. Somebody that's going to be on soon, we hope. It's the surprise of that the journey has not ended. We certainly didn't know, particularly during COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen. And I think we doubled down and did more to entertain ourselves and the masses as best we could. But I think I think the surprise is the fact it's continued, and the fact that we've developed friendships and relationships with people globally that I would have never imagined. The fact that we have friends in Europe and people that will who spent their insomniac nights with us on the chat during the height of COVID, and who will take the time to do that the community continues to grow, continues to be very supportive and a part of each other. Some of you probably saw it on Twitter, but Sarah Noel Wilson was 45 minutes away from me and drove up, brought her husband and her in-laws, because I was at the Brookings Farmers Market just this last Saturday. And she says, I'm 45 minutes away. I'm driving up to see you before we drive out to the Black Hills. That someone would do that, 45 minutes. Some places of the world, that's a long way. In the Midwest, it's not. Yeah, right.
For her to do that and come up and spend, half an hour with me just chatting and doing a little catch up and having that connection, I think that will always continue to be the biggest surprise for me, even though we continue to go on, and that we're able to continue to have these conversations, because now I can count you amongst my dear friends and many, many other people that I've met through the social hour.
That caps the questions. Hopefully you were educated, entertained, something in between.
Yes, I hope so.
Something from the ridiculous to the sublime. Wendy, we know what time it is.
Yes.
I'm going to crack open the wheel.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready to spin and let her rip.
All right. Here we go.
And the winner is Tina Marie Woolfield.
Woohoo!
I'd tell you to send her some ice cream, but I don't know how feasible that is. We will be sending her a prize. Thank you to all that submitted. And Chris Hadley, again, make sure that you ask your family next time, because that is just the way you explained it was so tremendous. We really do appreciate that.
I love it.
Wendy, as we sit back and reflect on 225 numbered, 294 now total shows that we've done, I wanted to make a few comments, and hopefully people are still listening. This has been a really interesting year for us as podcasters and looking at what we do. We've been tremendously fortunate to work with some amazing sponsors over the last many months, with Bowling Green State University, with Workology. We're incredibly appreciative of that. We're appreciative of all of you that listen. We're just going to say it. We're in a weird place. We're just not having as many people listen. For whatever reason. And I think that is a sign of coming out of the pandemic. I'm not going to say post, just in general, and talking to other people. It seems like people are doing other things. They're getting out of the house. They're just not. And we've talked several times about the fact people aren't traveling or have those commutes as much, and they're not listening. I want to personally thank all of you that are continuing to listen, and I would respectfully request and ask and humbly ask that you share, continue to share.
Please share.
Follow. If you're not getting episodes every week, I think we can proudly say in the time we've done this, we've had one late episode the whole time. And that is our commitment to you, is to have new stuff and good stuff. I think we've had some amazing guests in the last several months that unfortunately more people should have heard and will hear, because I think that there's a bit of cycle to this. It honestly has been frustrating and disappointing, but I also know we can't control it. All we can do is just say thank you to those that are listening and just ask, continue to share the good word. This is not us saying we're done. That's my running joke on Star Joe's. Every episode, I always say, "Oh, it's our last episode." We're not doing that, folks. Nope. Please don't read it as that. We would ask,
please share,
just share and help others find us, because that's been the beautiful thing in this. Going back to that big surprise, Wendy, you and I agreed. We thought we'd have a handful of people listen, and we'd do the 50 shows and be done, and it became so much more than that, overwhelmingly so. Like I said, it's been a weird couple months, frustrating couple months for me particularly.
Because you look.
because I look at it. It's weird, and
it is.
But I'm thankful that it's not just us. In other words, if I felt like we weren't continuing to put out good, and I would ask if you're listening to this, if we're not giving you what you need necessarily, or that you're finding that stuff has changed for you, I'm open. We are open to feedback. We're certainly not going to just go do something like everybody else, because that's not what we are, who we want to be.
No.
If I'm going to do that, I'm going to stop and go do something else and call it something else and do it differently. I don't mean to bring everything down, but I had to say it. And I felt like it's 225. It's an anniversary show, and I can't. And
it's our show, and we get to do what we want. But I think, just again, the call to share what you listen to, share what you like. If there's something you don't like, let us know, and we'll take it under advisement. We have been here, and we're been a part of the community, and we're going to continue to be a part of the community. So share what you like.
We have talked about this, I think, a few times in the past. What we do is very lonely, and that sounds weird.
It is.
However, we can put out a show, and it will get downloads, and people will share and comment on it. But for the most part, you don't get a lot of feedback.
No, you don't.
You might get, if it really resonates with somebody and they're really appreciative of it. But for the most part, we don't hear a lot. We do get the shares and we get likes. It's not like people are contacting us often to say this is what, and that's all right. That is kind of this. I always say you get about 3% response if you're lucky, and I think we've been well fortunate beyond that. But it is kind of a weird thing. We're sitting here talking to each other. We may talk to somebody else, and it goes into this little audio thing, and we clean it up and put it out there, and just hope for the best. Yeah. that it does resonate. And if it's not resonating, we want to know that too.
Yep.
We didn't go 90 minutes, Wendy, but we did go a little over an hour.
We did go a little bit longer than I thought we would, but that's all right.
That is okay.
Love talking with you.
Well, that's why we planned accordingly for your schedule. If they've made it this far and they're not connected, though, what is the best way for them to reach you out there?
Best way, as always, on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. And then the second and fourth Sunday of each month, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you will find me on Twitter as part of our twice monthly Twitter chat. How about you, John?
JohnThurman.com for all things John Thurman, and for the show, hrsocialhourpodcast.podbean.com. We've already asked or told, listen, rate, review, share, and follow whatever platform you're on. International listeners, we know you are listening, and we do appreciate that. We'd love to talk to you further. Reach out. Let's start those conversations, because it's easier for you to get in touch with us than for us to get in touch with you. Wendy, we really have gone from the sublime, ridiculous to the sublime and back again.
Love it.
Thank you for being here. Congratulations on 225 numbered shows.
Yeah. Woo.
Back with even more and better in the next few weeks. So, for the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast, I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
give back, and network.
Network.
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you soon.